If you weren't aware, some of these videos are a form of procrastination for me, and I hope they're not a procrastination for you, but ultimately we're going to talk about what top producers know. I write a number of manuals and reports for private clients and sometimes just to organize ideas, because there are certain things that productive people know, and if I can capture those things and adopt them in my own life, I find that I'm much more productive and that I get better results. But there's one secret that top producers know that I am having trouble adopting, but I'd like to share with you anyway, as well as some of my struggles, so that you can get the results that you're looking for in your business and in your personal life. So I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. Inside Strategic Relations is a newsletter for top earning professionals. And while I don't look like it, I'm pretty good on the income scale due to certain skills and approaches that I've had over the years. Doesn't mean I'm rich, but ultimately I'm on the path of peak productivity to get more accomplished in less time with fewer resources. However, one of the things that top producers know, and by the way, this is a manuscript, so you'll see I'm editing the manuscript, and I'm not going to read directly from it, but ultimately this report really is about to be and remain top of your game, to achieve peak performance. It takes more than a technical skill or a particular trade or occupation. So let me cover this appropriately. First off, there is a desire in society, and let me frame this so that it makes sense. There's a pressure from society for you to work long hours. Now, originally, people worked 7 days a week, every day of the year, as farmers. So we grew our own food, and in an agricultural society, people worked every day, 10, 15 hours a day. And as the parable goes, even on the morning of his wife's funeral, the farmer still needs to feed the chickens. They still need to feed the cows. They still have to milk the animals. Not sure why I gestured like this, but the point being is today we don't have to work that hard in order to provide for ourselves, because in a modern society, there's an ecosystem of individuals who are working 24 hours a day. People think the system of slavery went away years ago, but there are people who have to work 7 days a week all the time. What is different about their mindset than someone who only really needs to work 40 hours a week? And I hear people complaining, oh, man, it was a tough week. I had to work 40 hours this week. I had to work 50 hours this week. I've been working 80 hours this week. Well, did you work 7 days this week? Well, some people do. Some people have more than one job. In my particular case, I have a full-time job. I'm running a business. I have, community obligations and family obligations. So yeah, working all the time is natural to a lot of top producers. But there's one thing that seals it, and it is not allowing the work to push out health and mental, so health in the sense of mental and physical fitness, but also your sleep. So I have had trouble in those areas. So for example, in 2021, I was able to work remote. While everybody's shut down in 2020 and 2021, I was able to work remote, but I was under a high level of stress and gained 30 pounds. That's not really good. I also wear a CPAP machine, and I don't want to give you too much information, but a lot of folks who watch my videos can relate to that desire, especially in the IT world, that desire to work around the clock. Now, when I was younger, I worked 72 hours straight on a lot of projects. We might be doing a server install over a weekend. We've got an outage that started Friday. We're working all Friday night, all Saturday night, and all the day Sunday, and then very often monitoring from Sunday night to Monday morning as people start coming back into work. Now, an employer can have the expectation that you do this because you are a replaceable resource. So you're a unit of work, and you can be easily replaced. I know a lot of you guys don't like to hear that, but that is a fact. When I hire people, I hire them in pairs. So I hire 2 personal assistants, and when one personal assistant messes up, I replace them with another. Now, this does 3 very important things. Number 1, It gives me a more balanced set of resources, and it's easier to train. Well, it takes the same effort to train 2 people as it does to train 1 person. So I'm not expending any more resources to bring 2 people up to speed or 5 people up to speed on a project than it does for me to get 1 person up to speed. It also gives me a fair perspective of ability because I have a basis of comparison. There's 2 people to compare. But if 1 person messes up, I can let the 1 person go and I go to 50% capacity rather than 0% capacity. Does that make sense? Okay, your employer is thinking this way. So is your clients if you're an independent professional. But it also, the person who gets left behind is going to take on more work, which challenges their capacity. Now, if they can do 3/4 the amount of work, it tells me they were underperforming before or that they have additional capacity. But again, I should reward them for that. But second, they know I will fire somebody. So they're likely to up their game. When I bring on a 2nd person, I'm actually going to be interviewing for a 3rd. Because again, when you're hiring, it's, you got to make sure you have the slot filled. That 2nd person is a relief to the 1st person, but now I can work with both of these people to find out maybe if I need 3 people on the job. But if I don't need 3 people on the job, then I got 2, and because 1 is none and 2 is 1. But ultimately, my point being is that top producers have this mindset, but in order for this mindset to work well and not be abusive, you have to have the sleep, the quality sleep, the ability to regenerate and rest. Otherwise, you might get in a situation where you got 2 laborers and you're slaving them. You're working them far higher the capacity. You're nagging them about the next thing to get done. And then, you really should have 3 laborers, but you've got 2 and you're burning them out. Now, some businesses, and I was actually on the receiving end of this in the IT industry, some businesses don't really care if they burn you out because they can put a job rec out and get 25 more people lobbying for your position because, again, they're paying you above average wages. So that's the system administrator. That's the network administrator. That's the middle manager sometimes. Ultimately, what happens if you don't have the sleep is that you don't have the emotional regulation necessary to either handling being on the receiving end of that or handle the resource allocation so that you can get the best work out of individuals. See, some managers are okay getting any work out of somebody. That is not a long-term approach unless you have an unlimited market supply. So again, that's why most jobs regress to a minimum wage position because the minimum wage is the least amount of money they can pay. And if you can systemize the activity or automate the activity, then pretty much anybody can do the work. But again, top producers know that it is your mental capacity and your mental, I guess it's kind of a freshness of mind, and it comes through good health, it comes through good sleep, it comes through having a stability in your personal economics that allows you to make really good decisions. So let's go back to the 2 assistants. Let's say you're performing at your very best as assistant number 1. And assistant number 2 is slacking off. Assistant number 1 will know number 2 is slacking off. And if I don't get rid of number 2, they aren't going to understand or respect my judgment. And that could cause number 1 to leave. Now, if I have number 1 and number 2 producing equal quality work, equal quality effort, but it's not cost effective. So for every dollar I spend, am I getting a multiple of that dollar back? Because again, you hire people for your own. So you hire people to do work that you can't do, but you also want to hire people in a way that you can keep them employed. So you hire people that can produce a surplus on their activity. I know the Marxists are saying that that surplus should be yours, but what are you going to do with it? If you could produce the surplus in your current situation, then you'd be a competitor, not an employee. My point being is that top producers can understand these complex ideas because they have enough sleep, because they have enough nutrients. You may not be aware, but recent studies on gut biology show how your gut biome and your ability to digest nutrients impacts your ability to think. And that the regeneration of neurons and the connections or the volume of the connection between neurons is impacted by your nutritional levels as well as your digestive enzymes levels. So your sleep matters, your health matters, all these elements build up. Top producers know this. There are, and I'll tell you, I am not a top producer a lot of the time because I'll fall into the trap of having to work that next hour, needing to get that paycheck. And not until you gain the mental freedom of understanding that the investment in your well-being is an investment in your abilities to perform. And I don't go into this particular report, but how you interpret stress is a perceptive activity, not a function of reality. So these two assistants, for example, I might be giving them regular tasks and having 4 or 5 tasks in the queue, and one assistant could be freaked out because they're overwhelmed by the number of tasks in the queue. The other assistant may be happy because they know that once they finish this work, they have security in their job of having another activity to do. I've been in situations where there's like no work to do and you're just always waiting for the boot to drop. You're like, oh my gosh, it's a little slack this time. But I've also been in situations where it's seasonal and we're doing 80-hour weeks and we're overwhelmed, yet there's always one person on the team that's like thankful that they're doing an 80-hour week. What is that perception? It's what top producers know. So I'm going to go through a few of the way top producers function to avoid specific mistakes that create additional stress in your environment or additional distraction in your environment. And these things are going to be kind of foundational to what you're doing. And then I'm going to allow you to ask questions through the comments that are going to help me fill out this report. And those people who ask questions in the comments, I'll be sure to get you a link where you can get a pre-publication of this particular report called What Top Producers Know That You Don't. And then you'll know and you'll be closer to becoming a top producer. So I started writing this particular report back in 2018 or something like that. And I've been applying these particular methods and increasing my productivity. But yet, like I said before, I still have the challenge with sleep because there's only so many hours in the day. And I sometimes fill my day with trivial items. So watching YouTube, things that aren't as important. Messing things up, being messy and then not cleaning up in a systematic way, which causes accumulation, and then accumulation causes frustration. Again, let me just give you a few of the functions that help top producers avoid mistakes, and these are from the report I'm describing here. So number 1, worrying about taxes. As a high-income professional, are you concerned that taxes are going to go up? I don't know if you've looked at your paycheck lately, but some top earners lose as much as 26% in federal taxes alone, 36% in federal taxes alone, and then when you add in your state and local taxes, very often you'll find out that only a fraction of your paycheck actually makes it to your pocket. And that is a frustration, but listen carefully. Top producers do not worry about what the tax rate is. The tax rate could be 90%. That's not as important as what the net pocket value is. So what do you get in your pocket? Now, there are ways to lower your taxes, and that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about right now. But by freeing your mind up from the worry of the tax rate, you're able to go find the methods. So putting more money in your 401k. It might be tax-deferred medical expenses rather than out-of-pocket medical expenses. There are a lot of different things that you can do, many more things that you can do to lower your taxes at whatever rate it is than you will achieve if you're worried about the current tax rate. So top producers have that clarity of mind to sit down and say, should I be worried about the tax rate or should I be looking at my free net cash flow? What is the net I'm receiving for this particular service that I'm providing? And that actually leads to more of a kind of an entrepreneurial mindset. But again, the mindset of I'll find somebody to pay the taxes for me, and I'm measuring my income by the net rather than the gross, and that you understand that you can control the net to make it even smaller so that you're paying yourself first, for example. That's the example of putting money in a 401k pre-tax rather than waiting for the government to tax what remains and then putting money in a Roth IRA. That's a really interesting presumption. Now, top producers understand that they must not consume more than they produce. So debt creates an obligation in the future that you are paying for both now and in the future. So if you borrow money to do something, that may not be the most productive way of achieving an outcome because you've made a promise to pay money in the future. You've put a burden on future earnings before you had the ability to get there. So a top producer is going to be looking at their day-to-day activity. If they're working for somebody, do they produce more than they are being paid for, which secures their job? Because no employer will let go somebody who produces more than they're getting paid, even if they're kind of a pain in the ass. Because again, the economic measure is what they're measuring success. So in your personal life, are you earning more than your expenses? In your business life, are you giving more in value than you're being paid in money? These are setups that make your life easier because if it's the other way around, if you are spending more than you earn, you're burdening your future self. You're creating an obstacle in the future that is going to make your day-to-day activities more difficult. Now, top producers know about inflation, and they, so you may borrow money today in order to pay it back with inflated dollars. But if you don't have a specific plan, you might be borrowing against your future earnings and not have future earnings to show for your activities or efforts. Another one is failure to cultivate business relationships. Top producers know that everything in life is about what other people have valued your services for. Now, this is difficult for some people to comprehend, but again, not everybody's top producer. Not everybody's in the top 5 or 10% earning. Not everybody's in the top 5% of production. And by the way, those are not connected. You could be the most productive person, the most productive janitor, the most productive teacher, and society not judge that as having value, and then you'll get paid the least. So teachers get paid less because society doesn't value teachers. Now, teachers have done some things that make that the case, but also it's just, the teacher creates a student. They don't create an artwork, or they don't create a sculpture. They don't create a HVAC system. So humans will, once they're past school, not value the teacher as much, so they get paid less. Janitors, for example, if they do their job, you would not know you needed a janitor, and therefore the value of the janitor is less, but sanitation workers make a huge difference. They're why modern societies are so clean. Ultimately, again, though, society doesn't value them as much, pays them less, and if you understand this, then you won't be angry about how much you get paid, but you'll cultivate the relationships necessary both to increase the perception of your value and also to connect with people who will pay more. So a janitorial service that cleans schools will get paid less than a janitorial service that cleans medical labs or medical facilities. A janitorial service that only sweeps the floors will get paid less than a service that mops and perhaps shines and polishes the floors, or does strips the floor and cleans the floor. Teachers who teach at elementary school will get paid less than professors who teach at a university. People who teach at a private school get paid more than the people who get paid at a public school. So it's about understanding the relationship so that you can move into the environment that either pays more, has better working hours, has better respect in the marketplace. It depends on what you're measuring success by. Top performers know it's the relationship that is more important than the situation. So who knows you and what you can do means the opportunity to get a new job. Who you know who can hire means you can get hired. Now, if you're in business itself, that relationship you have with your customers is very valuable because, again, if you're delivering more than they're paying, you're delivering that little extra, you're going the extra mile, then you start cultivating loyalty, and then the relationship secures the interaction. And again, top producers know this stuff. Top producers have the cognitive ability. Now, again, let me step back a little bit. When I say cognitive ability, I do believe that all humans have capacity, but some are distracted by nuances that keep them from the results that they're looking for. And if you can connect with the clarity of mind that comes from good rest, from good exercise, from good experience, so for example, fat cells in your body impacts your ability to think. Having too much cholesterol, having too much inactivity can cause a fogginess in the mind. So I'm not saying that fat people are dumb. Don't go cancel me for that stupid stuff. But understand that if you don't feel good about who you are, and you don't have healthy habits that help with blood circulation and blood oxygen levels, you will have trouble thinking. You'll have stinking thinking, and that'll make it difficult to make good decisions that benefit you in the long run. And in fact, you could end up as a pawn to someone else who can make good decisions because they've found that weakness in your ability. So let me get right back to what top producers know and why you should invest in understanding what top producers know, because top producers deliberately use time and resources to achieve the outcomes that they desire. Okay? This is very important. If you want to have a more vigorous and healthy figure or posture or mental state, then you have to take the steps necessary to achieve that. It doesn't do anything to wish, dream, and hope. You have to actually take action. Now, taking action frees up mental cycles and clarifies your thinking so that you can then review your challenges from multiple angles. So remember the two assistants where one is happy, they've got a backlog of materials, and the other one is frustrated. It's the same backlog, different perceptions, viewing the challenge from a different angle. This is perhaps the most powerful thing. Now, of course, I've got, the report goes over 13, 14 different ways that, well, actually, I'm on number 20. Let me see real quick here. 27, they have a critical thinking mind. Okay, 29. So there's 29 different characteristics of a top performing individual that you may not have even heard of any of these things because, again, all the distractions that are both set up in our world and perceived in our world. But ultimately, there are certain things that top producers do not do. The foundation of what top producers know is that their relationship with their mind and their physical body impacts their abilities to make good decisions. Now, a good decision perceived by a third party could be considered a bad decision. But again, you've got to have that structure in place in your own mind in order to use it to make the right decisions. Now, by investing in what top producers know, you're going to be able to move towards your goals faster. You're going to be able to remove distractions. You're going to have better resource allocation for the outcomes that you're looking for. And in fact, in a modern world, this translates into higher income, more income stability, and it transforms into greater, more valuable opportunities becoming available for yourself. When you understand what top producers know, and again, this is a 15, 20-minute podcast. I did not have time to cover everything, the 12 mistakes, the 29 tenets and characteristics of top producers. When you have this, life is different. Now, like I said, I still have challenges with sleep. I am so excited and passionate about the things I get to do each day. And it's not a unrational excitement. Like if I had 2 minutes to go into it, I would say, everything seems like crap, but there are nuclear reactors today that don't produce any radioactive waste. You may not have known about that. Some of the things you see about climate change, well, actually coral reefs are growing. There are plants and habitats that actually thrive with human interaction. When people talk about fossil fuels, oil is actually a renewable resource in some cases when managed properly, but there's also oil that can be produced by microbial activity on the surface using solar. So not solar energy, but sunlight converting plant matter into biofuels. I'm excited about what's going on because I do have the clarity of thinking, but there's a next level that I can achieve by improving quality of sleep, by improving physical activity, by improving aspects that seem contrary to the societal demand of a 40, 80, 90-hour week, of putting your family aside for that paycheck, that conflict that happens when you are not clear about the outcomes that you desire. Now, if you have questions about what I've covered today, or you want additional information, you're going to visit me, Justin Hitt, at www.insidestrategicrelations.com. That is, there's no dashes or anything in between there. It's Inside Strategic Relations all together. And you go to the contact page and you're going to ask your questions. When you ask your questions, I'll either do a video or I'll get you information about how you can get this report. But it is amazing. I interviewed top producers to create this report. I've observed people who are multimillionaires, billionaires, have a lot of influence in society. But also, how is it that people who make very little financially have the wealth of quality of life, just financial freedom and personal freedoms, and the ability to not really be worried about the drama of this world? And it's in this report. And I hope to share this report in detail with you through your questions. I want to thank you for being a part of today's podcast. And again, I'm Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations, where we help high-income professionals and entrepreneurs transform business relationships into profits. And that alone is a signal that you're a top producer. See you in the next one.